This video will show you how to create a research report with R Markdown. I first start with our research project. I have a very simple research project here that I use as a sample. So it has a Rio library loaded, the tidyverse, and janitor to clean our data. Then I download data from the internet, a housing data set. I clean the names. I select only a few variables: price, square footage of living, and waterfront. Waterfront is a variable that has yes and no. I convert that into 1 and 0 to run it as a dummy variable. And this data set, you can play with it. This data set has 21,000 records. I want to have a good processing speed, so I randomly choose 1,000 of them. And I set my random number generator here, so I get always the same results. Load the Rio package, load the tidyverse, set my random number generator, and load the data. And you can see the data here: price, square footage, and a dummy variable that is 1 if the house is at the waterfront. Now I run a regression. I use the LM command for linear model. Price is a dependent variable, square footage is an independent variable, and waterfront, the dummy variable, is another one. Data are in this data set, and that creates a model here. So this model has all the information in it, a lot of information that I actually don't need. That's why I push the result, the model, to the command summary, and it will spit out only what I need and saves it in this variable. And if I print this variable here, you can see here is my model. Square footage, about $250 per square footage. A waterfront at $700,000. That's a lot. So these are my results. I can also plot my results here. These are my dots. The red line shows the regression line for all the houses that are not at the waterfront. Waterfront is 0. And the blue line shows the one that is at the waterfront. And you can see the blue line is above, so there is a premium. And you can see that if you look very careful, we have these blue dots here. These are the waterfront properties, and usually they are at the upper edge of this point cloud. So showing waterfront properties are more expensive. Okay, this has nothing to do with reporting. This is just my research project, a very simple one, oversimplified. How can I turn this one here into a report? Two things I want to get your attention. The data, like usual, are saved in our object, but also the summary output from my model is saved in our object, and also my plot is saved in an R object. And then we have this weird comment here, 2 comment signs in a row, at .NIT_R, and then followed by the word code that I made up. At this point, this doesn't make sense, but I just want to get your attention for it. So all of our results are stored in R objects rather than output directly to the console. Okay. What I do here is I copy this code here into the clipboard because I will need it later. Close this one. And now I want to run a report. How do you do that? First, you generate one with the general code: file, new file, R Markdown. That's all you have to do. And then it asks for a title. I can type something in here, sample possibly. Has my name in there already. I want a document, leave it as it is. And I want HTML. Trust me, you can change it anytime. Do HTML, and I start it here. and it generates this file here, and I could save this file here as a template. That's what I usually do, and then change it to my liking. I don't do that. I execute this file, and what is important is you don't use run here. You use this knit command, and you can knit it, translate it to HTML, PDF, and Word. Don't translate it to PDF and Word right now. Just stick with HTML. And it asks you to save it. You save it somewhere in your project folder. I call it delete. And it is saved as delete RMD. And now it translates it and takes a moment. And I got already my sample project that has nothing to do with my own project. It's just with the car data set, has a plot in there, but already has the title, the name, and today's date. I don't use the sample here. I created a sample on my own. So I delete this one here. And that is what is called my report, simple and incomplete. I open it here, and let's see what it does. It has the title like before, my name, has the date, and you can copy and paste this later. I added this part here in what is called the YAML header. That's basically a section. You don't really have to know what it is. You just copy it there, and it makes your output look nicer. If you like the original output, just leave it there. Don't copy it in there. I copied it in there. It goes just without explanation. We can just copy it in there, leave it there. Everything else is, this was in the sample code. And now I added some text because I didn't want to bore you to death while I'm typing. So this sign here, if I do it in an RMD file, means it's a section header. Pound blank introduction. It's my top level section header. This is an example for a very simple housing data regression. I wrote that to generate and display the code, the following packages need to be installed. This is very important. Because it's so important, I want important to be bold-faced. How do you do that? You just put 2 stars around it. If you use 1 star, it's not bold-faced, it gets a different color. It's italic, but I want it bold-faced, so I put the other star here. Now I have a list here. The packages that I need for my R script and the one that I need for the RMD file. And it's a bullet list. First bullet, second bullet. But it has 2 levels. Under the first level, I have an enumeration. First, second, third. And that's where I put tidyverse, Rio, janitor. And the way I do this here, and this is where you have to be careful. Normally, if you just have a regular enumeration, just a star, a blank, and then what you want to write is okay. But if you want to have something indented, what you have to do is you type it here and then 1 blank, 2 blanks, 3 blanks. So you're in position 4. And then your first, third, and second topic need to be also indented at the same level. And there has to be at least, this is wrong, this is correct, at least 1 blank. I don't know if you saw it, but first, this is my second here, and this is my third. The numbers are not correct. That really doesn't matter. I can type a number of 5 here. R will always enumerate correctly. 1, 2, 3. So if you have a longer enumeration, you put something in there, don't even bother to change it. Okay, here's a new one, my code. The code is simply copied and pasted here, not yet. It will go here. Here's where my code goes. I have a new title, results. Below I show the results. And now I have a second level title that gets 2 pound signs and a blank. So the results are graphical results that I don't have here, and regression results that I don't have either. I just have a placeholder here, and I have a summary here. Okay, let's look at the summary before I run it. So I don't have my R code there, so nothing special right now. You can learn about R, and here's a link. If I want to use a link, it's super simple. The text of the link goes in square brackets. The link itself goes in round brackets. That's all you have to do. What else do I have? I can make cool formulas here. What this one does, it's a fraction. The command always in LaTeX starts with a backslash as a fraction. Then in curly brackets, nominator and denominator equals another fraction. And I want from this one, I want to calculate the square root. Now I knit it, it creates a HTML file. Here's my HTML file. And look, it's nicely formatted. Look at this nice enumeration here. What you can see, you possibly remember that the word tidy words were in marks on a keyboard in the very upper left corner. And then they get actually a gray background showing its code. And here's my formula. And I put a footnote at my formula. I will show that to you in the code in a moment. Here's a footnote. And if I click, it goes to the footnote. If I click here, I go back. Looks very nice. Has also a table of content. The results, when I click on them, show the sub results. It goes automatically. So how do I get R in there? Before I show you how to get R in there, I want to show you how I made this footnote. Here's my text. And then I use the chevron. And in square brackets, I have the text. This is the LaTeX formula. That becomes my footnote. Very, very easy. So I will show you 2 ways to get R code in there. The first one has a few disadvantages, but it is the simplest one. So I leave everything as it is. And here's my R code. Here is where I want my R code. And R code in a markdown file, in a R code in a markdown file is called a chunk, an R chunk. I can generate a chunk because it needs a special syntax with typing Control-Alt-I. Here it is. Has the 3 tick marks. In curly brackets, it says R, and then it ends 1, and automatically the editor will underlay it with gray. Now what I can do is, and I copied and pasted my code from my R script already, I just paste it in here. Here it is. And it's in there, my complete R code. Each chunk has a settings menu. Here, see this little gear? If I click on it, I strongly recommend don't leave it as document default. Say clearly what you want. And in this case, I want to show the code and the output. But remember, there is no output because I put everything into variables. Nothing is outputted to the console, with possibly the exception of some messages. I don't want that, or some warnings. So I disable these 2 ones and I say apply. And the settings are automatically generated here. If I want to change them, instead of editing them here directly, I can easily do this here with this little gear. So my code is now executed, and that means all variables are available. Below are the graphical results. So what do I do is, again, Control-Alt-I. I go here, and what I do is I just put my graphics in there, the one that I saved. Plot housing, it was called. I delete these ugly signs here. These were just the placeholders. And again, in this case, it's different. I don't want to show the code here. I don't want in my document that it says plot housing. So in this case, I say show output only. And again, in case it generates any weird messages or warnings, I disable those. Apply that, done. Now I want my regression results. Same procedure. Delete my placeholder, and you wouldn't need a placeholder just for me. Control-Alt-I creates a chunk, an R chunk. And what I want in there, I want the summary of my model there. And that was stored in a variable, model all as sum. That's the variable I stored it in. And again, go here to the settings. I only, from this chunk, I only want the output. I don't want that it shows model all as sum. That's ugly. In case it generates warnings, I don't want to see them. In case it generates messages, I don't want to see them. I apply everything. And everything else is the same. I run my code. And here's my result. Takes a moment, because don't forget, the data are downloaded. Everything is processed here. And here I am. I can execute it in the browser if I want. Now it's in my browser. Here's my table of content. And here are my results. I can be very sure that my code here is correct because I executed it. If it was not correct, if I would have typed pies instead of price, I would have gotten an error message. Here's my graph, nicely formatted. And here are my regression results. Everything is in here. What R did, it just generated an HTML file from me here. I can put this HTML file directly on the internet, and everybody can view it with all the interactivity. So I said there are some disadvantages. Well, if you work this way, you would have to finish your complete code. This one has to be finished. And then you copy and paste it here. Whenever you make a change here, you would have to copy and paste it again. That's a little bit of a hassle. You could work totally in the RMD environment. Don't even work in a R script. I wouldn't do that because you have a lot of overhead that makes your code for yourself very difficult to read. So what's the alternative? The alternative is to load and execute your file into your RMD file. I've prepared that already. It is the one that says Flex, my report Flex. You can download it from the internet. And it's almost the same with a few changes. This part is the same, like the other one. Here's the setup. The setup originally didn't have these 3 lines here. Let's first look at this one. This one here, use the knit-r package, use the command read chunk, in quotes, the name of our file, which should be in the same directory where our RMD file is. So this way, out of a sudden, our code gets available. The nice thing is if I change the code in my R file and I save it, that's a very common mistake that I do. I change the code and then I translate the RMD file and I'm upset it doesn't work. And then at the end, I see I forgot to change my R file. then the R code, the up-to-date R code is always available. So while I work on it, I just work inside my R file here. Here's where I make my changes. Then I save my R file with the new code. This one just added a blank, so nothing changed here. And I translate it again. These two packages are loaded into the RMD file because this is where I will use them. There's a broom package that allows me to use the tidy command. And there is another package, it's called Cable Extra, that produces beautiful tables. So let's go down. Nothing has changed here. Exactly the same. Here comes my code. That actually has changed because here is where I posted my code before. What I did, and I will do it for you again, I create Control-Alt-I, the code. And what I want is my R file is already in the memory, but nothing is done with it. It is not executed, nothing. It's just in the memory sitting there. What I want it to execute that R file. And what I do execute in the R file is everything that is behind this marker, the code marker. In this case, it's my whole code. If you want, you can add other code markers here. You could have something like this here. Set this one here, make sure you rename it, call it plot. Then you could tell your RMD file first only execute this code and then execute this code. This is a little bit more advanced, so I don't want it. I tell my RMD file execute everything that is behind the marker code, and that's basically my complete file. How do I do this? I go where my code is supposed to go, create a chunk, and then here behind the R, no comma, nothing, blank, and I write code. Has to be spelled correctly. Then I go to my settings here, and I say what I want. In some cases, I just want to execute the code, show nothing, run code, if you want to hide your code, but you want to make it available. In this case, I say show code and output. There is no output because everything goes into variables. And here I go. That's it. My code gets imported. It is already in the memory. This puts it in the memory. Now my code gets executed here, gets displayed because I set it that way, and all my variables from the code are available. So I added another section here, my data, and I have another R chunk that is again set to the usual settings, show output only, no messages, no warnings. And here I want to show my data. And obviously I don't want to show 1000 records. I want to only show the first 7 records. I could leave it this way and it works. It's just not super pretty. What I can do here is I use my cable package, the one that generates very beautiful tables. I pipe my table into the command cable, KBL abbreviated. And I could leave it like this one, and I already will get a pretty good looking table. I add, by piping, another command here that's basically the design of my table. In that case, I use a template that's called cable paper. That looks nice. I activate hover functionality. You will see what that is. And I say the table does not have to use the full width of my screen. And remember, I have only 3 variables. I certainly don't want that. That looks ugly. That's it. Let's look at my results. I could leave it this way here. I could put my plot here, plot my results. What I could do is, but I don't know if I've imported it. I didn't, but I can do it. Let's double check. Plot. Yeah, now it auto-completes, everything is fine. And I have the command here, plot housing. I type ggplotly, and this way my graph becomes interactive. Okay, I go further down here. And now I want to print my model. And there is something very nice. There is, well, the tidy command that comes from the broom package. What it does, it takes my model or the summary of my model and extracts only what it thinks is important and puts it in a table. That alone would look nice. But if I pipe this again into my cable command and then use the same command again, cable paper, so it's a lot of copy and pasting here, then it looks nice. It shows all the coefficients. What it doesn't show, if I leave it like that, it shows all the coefficients. Which it doesn't show is my R squares. They go in a different table. And the glance command, which is also from the broom package, puts the R squares and some other information into a different data frame. So that's my second table that I want to print. And because I want to make it look nice, I again pipe it into the KBL command, use the template cable paper, say hover, and say I don't want full width. And that's it. Everything else is exactly the same than it was before. Now, cross our fingers that it works. And it did work. Open it in the browser. Here's my research report. It has a nice table of content. My plot is interactive. I have all the functionality. If I really want to, I can enlarge it. I can set it back. Let's look at my data. They are nicely printed now. That is what the cable package did. And exactly 246, my record. And the hover allowed me this functionality. Only thing what you have to do if you want to present your report, you just put the file on the internet and that's it. So what if your boss now says, I like that, but I want to integrate that into my own report, but I'm using Word. You say, of course. You go to knit and you say knit to Word. It's a little slower. It generates your report in Word. And here we are. Here's my Word. And you can edit it. And one thing I was very surprised, here's my formula. I thought it's a diagram, but you can actually edit it in Word. See? Don't want to do that because this is not correct anymore. So I don't think you will need that very often, except if somebody insists it has to be Word. Here's your link. Click on it. It goes to the R Markdown. I strongly recommend that source, and I will also put it in the learning guide. And now knit it to PDF. And in the background, if you ever heard about it, it generates a LaTeX file. So if you work with LaTeX, you can actually integrate that directly into your LaTeX code if you really want to. And here's my PDF file. It also has a table of content here. Have a nice dinner. Like usual, I finish here, but if somebody has questions, I will be here until the last person leaves.